This video was brought to you in part by the supporters of the AMTV Patreon. Thank you. Hello there folks, and welcome back to Weird Who. Today we're talking about parodies, and Doctor Who is certainly no stranger to being parodied. Even as far back as the mid-1960s, the show was the subject of numerous skits and jokes, both in the world of print and also on TV. This would continue into the 1970s, particularly in Tom Baker's 7-year stint in the lead role. You have examples as early as 1975, when the new Time Lord had barely completed his first run of adventures. But today, we'll be taking a look at a parody that aired more on the latter half of the Baker years, and the show responsible for it is known as End of Part 1. End of Part 1 is a satirical programme, parodying numerous hit shows of the late 70s in a sometimes clever, sometimes tongue-in-cheek way. The show aired for 2 series, between the spring of 1979 and the autumn of 1980. Due to an unflattering afternoon time slot on Sundays, the show didn't get much buzz back in the day, but has since gained a cult following. I recently ploughed through all 14 episodes, and actually quite liked it. There are sadly some stereotypes of the day, namely to do with race and ethnicity, so keep that in mind if you're going into this. But on the whole, it's a fun, often really witty, underrated comedy show. So where in all this does good old Doctor Who come in? Well, the parody came in the final episode of Series 1, which aired on Sunday the 27th of May, 1979. So sit back, relax, and marvel in the absolute madness of Dr. Eyes.
The planet Chroma Key 5, home of the dreadful Doctor. We must be very careful, Gloria.
Is this where I scream and point or where I sprain my ankle?
I think you'd better use this as a shield, in case of any hidden danger.
What is it?
One of my contact lenses. And you, plastic thing that's supposed to look like a dog, stand up.
Yes, Master.
Look out! What's that?
Oh, no! Are you all right?
What? I don't know. Great cosmic boom shadows. No, it's gone right through.
What is it? Your contract! You know what this means.
Yes.
Oh, that's better. The other one was getting far too expensive. Now, let's get out of here. Quick, run this way.
Well, where on earth do we start with this one? The titles they use are somewhat faithful to Doctor Who, I guess. Some sort of psychedelic background, the logo zooming out. The fact they were even allowed to use the diamond logo surprises me. But not just the logo, the music, which isn't simply a homage, it is the Doctor Who theme. Not the one heard in the show at the time, but it does sound familiar. The closest link I could think of would be the 1972 single release, Who is the Doctor? An arrangement of the theme with some narration from the third Doctor himself, Jon Pertwee. Back to Dr. Eyes, the landscape they chose is honestly quite effective when it's just the background, but when you see the hand place the prop TARDIS, you can tell this parody is going to focus on the relative cheap budget that Doctor Who was made on, particularly in the late 70s. Before long, we're introduced to the Doctor and his assistant, who have arrived on the planet Chroma Key 5. If you know your old school technical jargon, this is quite a good gag. Chroma Key was one of the forerunners to what we'd call nowadays CGI. Doctor Who extensively used chroma key technology in the 1970s to help produce alien planets, monster effects, and more. Though it didn't always look fantastic, just watch Underworld. The Doctor here has, it's called Dr. Eyes, what do you think I'm going to say? A cheeky little rib at Tom Baker's all-too-expressive eyeballs. His assistant, known as Gloria here, is a very obvious pastiche of the main show's then latest companion, Romana. They even go out of their way to depict her with some excessive furs, just like what Romana was wearing in her debut story, The Reboss Operation. Her question to the Doctor again drills in another stereotype that the classic series is known for, that the female companions supposedly did little more than scream and point, or sprain their ankles in moments of danger. And whilst there is some argument to be made on those issues, if you look a bit more in depth in Classic Who, I'd argue many of the companions are a lot stronger than that.
What is it?
One of my contact lenses.
Okay, that did get a big laugh out of me, I'm not gonna lie.
And you, plastic thing that's supposed to look like a dog. Stand up.
Yes, Dad.
Oh no, they did K9 dirty, man. Now I know despite K9's popularity with children, amongst many adults he was seen and derided as being a bit of a joke. And whilst this example here again did get a chuckle out of me, I feel bad for K9, man. Was he really that bad? Hey, watch out, boys. Here comes the the Dustbins? This little guy, I'm assuming, is meant to be a parody of the famous Pepper Pot. I mean, they were derided as being motorized dustbins, so it would make sense. The fact that when it fires too, there's no indication, there's no effect, no nothing, that kind of cheapness did make me chuckle. I also love the overacting in the whole skit, the two actors perfectly adopting the cheesy, hammy style of performing that plagues the very worst that science fiction has to offer. With the Doctor down after a shot from little Dusty Boy here, we see him pull out a bit of paper. I say paper, but the chroma key is making it see-through, which adds to the whole charm of the parody, if I'm honest. It turns out that this was the Star's contract, now having been shot through, and that can only mean one thing: a regeneration. Again, admittedly, I laughed. The skit closes out with the duo running on the spot as the background moves in a very cheap and shoddy way. A fun way to close out the segment for sure, but again, this kind of effect didn't happen on Who, did it? It very well could have done. I mean, there's a lot of Who out there, but this one did leave me with a smile all the same. So, what can we summarise here? Well, I tell you what, I've seen much, much worse Doctor Who parodies. This one makes me laugh in places because of how it's parodying the show. I like the fact that it takes jibes at the budget, the shoddy chroma key, the overacting of the characters, and granted, there is overacting in even the finest of Classic Who, but when it happens, it often still entertains rather than being an eye-roller. I do find it odd how the actor portraying Tom Baker's version of the Doctor isn't going for a deeper Tom-style voice. If anything, he sounds closer to Jon Pertwee. Overall, I'd say Dr. Eyes is one of the funnier parodies of 1970s Who. It has some clever gags, some unexpected laughs, and overall, it's just having a bit of a jibe at a national institution that was Doctor Who. As mentioned before, this kind of style was used to parody other programmes of the day, so if you like what you saw here, I'd recommend checking out End of Part 1, with all 14 episodes available on a 2-disc DVD set. Thank you for joining me for Weird Who today. Join me next time for some more wonderful weirdness from the realm of the Whoniverse. God, try saying that 3 times fast.
Oh, that's better. The other one was getting far too expensive.